Nofio is building an adapter for the Valve Index that'll let you play PCVR content completely wirelessly. I reached out to the team and they were more than happy to talk to me about their product, so let's get right into it. Before we get started, would you guys like to tell us a bit about yourselves and maybe introduce yourselves briefly?
Yeah, we can go around the room. So my name's Phil. I'm basically the tech lead and program manager here at nofio. We have a team of about 10 people, so we've just got a few of us on hand today. And the rest of us?
Yep. So I'm Serena and I look after engagement, so some of our socials and getting in touch with, a few people to test our products and things like that.
I'm Bruno, so I'm the product and QA lead for nofio.
I'm Nathan, I'm our lead software engineer.
That's great. So you've already got a team of 10 people, did you say?
That's right, yeah.
Well, that's great. That's just really impressive. Okay, so what gave you the idea to pursue making a wireless adapter in the first place?
Well, that's quite a large question to answer. I guess the company initially was sort of started to do wireless VR. I mean, that's basically what we were looking to do. And there was a number of different ways that we could approach that. Getting a headset off the ground as a standalone product is, there's a lot of engineering involved in that. I guess for us, the sort of shortest path to a product would be to support existing headsets and retrofit wireless adapters. So, we figure that there's already a fairly passionate market out there of users on multiple headset types. We identified the Index as being the kind of the one that had the most passionate user base, and quite frankly, I think all of us here owned one as well. So it was a pretty short putt to take that step.
Yeah, I mean, we loved the Index and we wanted a better gameplay experience for ourselves, and we could see that others wanted it as well. So it just seemed to make sense.
Yeah,
that's great. So did you ever consider any other devices? Like, were there any others that were serious candidates, or were you just straight on the Index?
yeah, we did, right? We considered them all. It's just that the Index seems to be hungrier for it. The community is just, they've been waiting for something like that for a long time. And we've done some posts on Reddit, and we've been listening, those guys talk about it, and they're just hungry for it,
Yeah. Plus, for example, with the Vives, HTC already have an adapter out for that, so there isn't that much of a need for those other headsets. For the Index, there's been nothing out about it. Gabe Newell has already said that wireless is a solved issue, so we thought, why don't we solve it ourselves?
Yeah. So, I mean, we do support, or we do have, prototypes on different headsets. And I think the main reason why we went with Index first is just purely because of the outside-in tracking as well. So, a lot of the other headsets that have the inside-out tracking that requires the camera data to be transferred, that's a difficult technical problem to solve. We're getting there, but in order to get something out quickly, then the Index is the one that will help us get there faster.
I might jump in quickly and just say that the Index is inside-out tracked.
You
said outside.
Outside, okay,
yeah.
Sorry.
That's great. So you were talking about how you prototyped a version for other devices as well, like along the way. What was the whole process of prototyping the device like? Like, how long did it take, and what steps did you go through to get to where you are now?
Oh.
Well, I mean,
we prototype on pretty much anything and everything like that requires low latency, media over wireless.
Yeah. So I think our first prototype was an original Vive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the bandwidth required for that was a lot smaller, but
I think every single headset that's out there, we've done something on it. You know,
we've either tested or
we don't skip any of them. Well, we always like trying, because we need to do that to keep up with what's the latest. Anyway, so yeah, I think
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a video transport over wireless. I mean, that's really what it is. So you know, it's a DP input that we support, and so if any headset has a DP input, then it's some minor changes depending on the config of the display resolution and refresh rate. But yeah, the real difficulty is in supporting all of the other peripherals that are attached to the headset. So, like I said before, tracking and cameras and USB integration and all that sort of stuff. That's that's where the kind of difficulty is.
So, in the case of the Index, what extra? So you mentioned obviously the DisplayPort signal. What extra challenges are there specifically with trying to make the Index untethered?
Yeah, so our biggest issue, primarily the biggest source of bandwidth concern, is actually the video feed going over towards the headset. So for example, running an Index at any of the refresh rates, 80 through to 144, it's practically the same bandwidth, because the Index, even at 80 hertz, broadcasts a very, very huge end of frame segment. And that runs through all the time. It's they call it the fast EDID. And the way that works is it tries to make sure that the frame gets displayed onto the headset as early as possible and as full as possible every single frame. So because of that, it's practically the same bandwidth requirements for 80 hertz versus 144, which is great. We support all of that right now. But for USB as well, we need to try and make sure that every single packet coming back through USB arrives back over to the PC as early as possible and with as little delay as possible, because we're running about 1,000 packets, 1,000 interrupts back through that per second. And you've got to have that fed back to the PC within a millisecond before the Lighthouse system times it out. So yeah, it's really just been low latency is our biggest concern, end to end, no matter what. You've got to display the frame as early as possible, and you've got to get that information back to the PC as early as possible.
Right, okay, yeah. So based on what you said there, does that mean that we can confirm that the transmitter and receiver will support the maximum refresh rate and resolution of the Index?
That's right. Yep. Yeah, so to give you a bit of higher level overview about the system itself, so you're right, it consists of what we call the base transmitter, and then there's the head, which is the receiver side. So the transmitter is basically an Oculink input, and it effectively replaces the headset virtually. So you use the existing Trident cable, the long cable, with all your power supply, USB, and DisplayPort inputs, and then connect it to the base. The base does all of the encoding of the video and USB data, and then sends that off to the head. And all the head is doing is really decoding and sending out a rendered frame to the headset, just through a short Oculink cable that we supply from the receiver to the HMD.
Right, okay, great. Okay, so about the latency, you were talking about how you want to get the latency as low as possible. Have you noticed, well, first of all, what is the actual latency you've ended up with at this point? And have you noticed any appreciable difference between using a tethered Index and using this wireless configuration? So
we get into a lot of fights internally about the best way to actually how do you put a number on the latency, and where do you measure it from, and how do you measure it? Is it peak? Is it average? Is it it's 2 standard deviations from the mean? What's the number that people are interested in? So no, I guess the short answer is no. There's no appreciable difference between a tethered experience, and that's the whole point here. Is what we're trying to do is to replace the cable without any significant or any noticeable difference. Basically, it's a cable replacement product. So people have been asking about actual latency numbers, and we try to give numbers, but there's different sort of environments in which those numbers mean things. But I guess at the end of the day, all we're trying to say is that the motion to photon latency between the GPU and the headset is within 1 frame. So I guess that's the simplest way that we can make it kind of understandable that there is really no latency.
Yeah. So really, your goal is to just. Oh, sorry. Continue.
Sorry, it's additional motion to photon latency because SteamVR predicts about 2 frames ahead normally.
Yeah.
So really, your goal is to make sure the product is completely not noticeably different from a cable.
Yeah.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it is like the further out you get from a good number, people notice it. Even if you're not sure if it's happening or not, your head and your eyes will know it.
You'll feel it.
You're gonna feel it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, well, a bit of latency can start causing motion sickness pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. Not what we're after.
And you were talking about how it's a cable replacement product. So am I correct in saying that to the computer, the transmitter and receiver combo is essentially invisible, right? Like the computer sees it as if the headset was plugged into it.
That's correct.
Display-wise, yes. USB-wise, we will always have to have a driver in there to help out with passing a bit of the details over. But yeah, display-wise, it's exactly that, just invisible.
Right, okay, right. So I saw you were talking previously online about having like a custom compression system for the data. Is there anything you can tell me a bit more about that other than that it's custom?
Yeah, I mean, the short story is that we prioritize the latency. That's really where we see our differentiator. This is really a product targeting or focused on PCVR, right? I mean, that's what we kind of want to get across, is that you'll still get PC quality rendering, through a low latency, compression and codec. So we do some things there to make sure that, like I said before, that there's no additional latency beyond a single frame. So we have techniques that we compress into a frame only. There's very little, in fact, there's no intra-frame, compression going on. So, yeah, I mean, it's basically, a proprietary way of shoving as little data as we can down a pipe with no degradation in image quality.
Right, okay. So you say no degradation of image quality. Is the video signal losslessly compressed, or is it just very good? Like, is it just lossily compressed but very well?
Yeah, the latter. I mean, we can get into entropy theory and all that kind of stuff about what actually lossless compression means, and obviously when you're compressing data, you're losing data, right? So it's not lossless in the true sense, but it's certainly visually lossless, right? I mean, we challenge anybody to have any noticeable visual quality difference between a tethered and a non-tethered.
Okay, great. So you were saying about needing a USB driver specifically for that side of the transmission process. Does that mean then the adapter is going to need specific software to work on a PC? And following up on that, will it be able to work on other OSs like Linux?
Yes, it will need that specific software to work on a PC. As far as SteamVR is concerned, once that driver is installed, SteamVR thinks it's directly talking to an index on the other end. So you can still update an index, still poll for its features, still talk to lighthouses through the index's Bluetooth internal and all of that. That's all fine. And in terms of other OSs, right now we only support Windows. However, Linux is on the horizon. I can't say if or when it'll ever get completed.
If there's demand, then it's definitely something we'll look at.
Yeah.
But all of the devs here actually dev on a Linux PC, so we'd all appreciate it.
Yeah, a lot of these things are like driven on demand, like Serena was saying. We really are like listening to the community. That's something that we've been talking about from the get-go.
Yeah.
We want to listen to the feedback. We put things out there. We see what people, what the reaction is, and we go from there.
Yeah, that's totally fair, because I understand that like VR on Linux is a lot smaller than on Windows. Like almost your entire market is probably Windows based.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get Nathan in frame a little bit better, if that's all right.
So what would you say is the ideal operational range of the transmitter receiver combo? And do you need line of sight between the two?
Yeah, so no, you don't need line of sight because it's 6 gigahertz, but we are optimizing it for a 5x5 area. And we do test on bigger areas. We mess around, we have a pretty big area here, and it does work. But it's just that for this first release, we are focusing on that 5x5 meters. That's what we're going for this time.
The biggest killer for us with wireless has been translation at longer ranges, though. So you can run without line of sight. Ideally, always it's better with line of sight. It'll always be better.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned you were using a 6 gigahertz connection. So you're using Wi-Fi 6E, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So why did you choose that over a WiGig connection?
Oh, that's another.
All right, we've been there.
Yeah.
We've got a story with Mike.
Yeah, all those headsets and prototypes that we've been talking about, we're really truly always, whatever is latest, we're trying it. And we did do prototypes with 60 gig as well. And we saw a lot of comments online, people talking about, it has to be 60 gig because of bandwidth, but what about the obstructions in line of sight and things like that? And yeah, like line of sight is one of the things that dictate the choice between those two, because you have a massive bandwidth, but line of sight is not ideal for the VR use case.
But the other part is it means that we can supply the accessory to many other countries. Yeah. We're not restricted because of the regulatory compliance. Mm-hmm. So Japan.
Yeah, we've been really surprised actually with interest from Japan just on the initial sort of launch of this product. And we've sort of been talking to people over there, and they're saying that 60 gig isn't regulated or approved for use in Japan. So theoretically, the Vive accessory isn't for sale in Japan.
Wow!
So there's
I had no idea.
There's a huge market over there, and Wi-Fi 6E, it's going to be in all regulatory domains, pretty much around the world very soon. So it's kind of the natural choice.
Okay, so moving on to the battery, right? You're supplying a battery to go with the adapter. What is, at least right now, what's your working capacity that you're going to have for the battery, and how long do you expect it to last on one charge?
Well, the battery guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, the target is for the battery that we supply, it allows for the player to have 2+ hours. But obviously, we intend on supporting the hot swap and other batteries as well. So if the users, they want to chuck in their own battery, that's a possibility. Yeah. But for now, a battery that's capable of supplying 2+ hours, that's the minimum for us. That's what the user will get.
So yeah,
you say, sorry.
I was just going to say that there's a trade-off between sort of battery capacity and weight. And so the battery that we will supply is intended to be worn, close to the back of the head with the accessory, just so that there's no cable even in your periphery around the player. Some people might prefer to have a longer cable with a battery in a pocket, so we can support that as well, and that'll give you a longer run time. But we still feel that even though you're untethered, just having a cable sort of wrapping down around to a battery still doesn't give you the full experience that we intend.
But we know that some people do like that, so if we can make it an option, we will.
Yeah, trying that out, I've definitely ripped the cable out a couple of times.
Beat Saber.
I could imagine that, yeah. So right now, the way you've decided to place the supplied battery by default on the back of your head, does that help with the weight distribution of the headset?
Yes. However, we have recently had reports that because of the additional weight of the battery on the back of the head, it's caused the headset to move a little bit. But with our later version, the prototypes, or even just the final product, it's definitely going to be a lot lighter in terms of just the actual physical hardware plus the battery.
Yeah, I think that's mainly an issue with the prototype that we're using because it's so much. I mean, what's double the weight that the end product should be. So
a lot of the videos we've been posting now with gameplay has been with our development kit. And so we've designed that so that it's parts are easily accessible and you can develop on the bench with it and things like that. So the form factor isn't the best in its current format, and so it's a little bit top heavy as well. So it does swing about, but ideally the production design will be about half the weight of the existing prototype, and it'll be mounted a lot lower down, so you don't get as much pendulum effect that you do with the existing design. So we're pretty confident that it's going to be great.
Right. Okay. You mentioned swapping the battery out. If I was wanting to swap the battery out mid-session, how hot-swappable is it, right? Like, how long would that process take?
So right now, there's two USB-C connectors. So you'd literally just grab your second battery ready to go. You'd plug it into the empty USB-C slot, and you'd remove the depleted battery out of the other slot, and you're good to go. So
wow,
15.
That's great. That's fantastic.
15 seconds, 20 seconds.
Yeah, so not really interrupted gameplay at all.
Okay, great. Let's see what else have I got here. You mentioned that right now the adapter is about twice as heavy as you plan for it to be. So how heavy are you aiming for the production release of the device?
So we're targeting, and once again, it's a target, but we've got some fairly mature CAD information to back this up. We're targeting about 200 grams.
Okay, small correction here. Phil let me know that the adapter actually weighs 400 grams, with both the battery and the adapter itself being 200 grams each.
And that's with the battery included. So the users have the option to remove that battery weight as well if that's what they want to do.
Right. Okay. Great. Okay, so right now, what stage would you say you're really at in the production process?
So we're in full engineering designs at the moment. So like I said, the prototype is fully functional and it's working. So right now we're in the engineering phases. So we're basically just re-engineering the electronics to fit within the form factor, and we're doing some CAD and sort of tooling designs on the enclosure and cables.
Right, okay. Is the current design you're showing off on your website, is that like a final look for the device, or is there going to be a few changes here and there on the way?
That's pretty much it. The only change, I think, there's some cabling changes and some antenna configuration changes, I think, on the base.
Yeah, so we had, because we had on the website, I think it has the Oculink and the C. But in reality, it would be just the Oculink to the base and the two antennas.
Right, okay. Okay, so on to your upcoming Kickstarter campaign, right? When do you plan on making the headset available to get on the crowdfunding site? Why do I keep saying, well, let me redo that question because I keep saying headset. When do you plan on making the transmitter and receiver available on the Kickstarter?
Well, Kickstarter, we're going to hopefully have it up by last week of August. And then first units will probably go out February next year.
Right, okay, that's great. That's quite fast. Okay, so what kind of price point are you aiming for here?
So for the Kickstarter, we've got some early bird pricing at $3.99. That's $3.99 US, and that's everything. So that's the both ends, transmitter, receiver, and an included battery as well, plus all the cables that you'll need ready to go out of the box.
Right, okay, that's great. Okay, next question. Are you going to have any kind of special backer tiers with like high-end bonuses?
Yeah, definitely. We're going to work something out because we really want to, say thanks to those guys who are going to get on and support us with this. So we're still kind of working it out.
Yeah, working out the details.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. Okay, so here's a question. How many backers will you need to be able to see the product through to release? Or will you just release it anyway, no matter what happens?
The reason behind the Kickstarter, and I know a lot of people have sort of been quite hesitant to back Kickstarters lately due to some, obviously some companies have not been able to fully commit to some of the, claims that they've been making. And so the reason why we wanted to do a Kickstarter was it enabled us to get closer to the consumer, to the user, and to get all of this feedback, in the engineering stage, so that we could make sure that we're really targeting the use case and ironing out some of those details. And secondly, I think we're really only just using the Kickstarter to kind of fund some setup costs for tooling and some production runs. So we understand that there's a lot of risk out there at the moment with supply chain and particularly with electronics, right? So we're in a very fortunate position where we've been able to supply or secure the supply of chips. So that's pretty much locked in, prior to us having to go to production. So, we've been trying to sort of close off a lot of those risks as best we can. And so to answer your question, I guess what you're asking is, we're really using this to fund the tooling and the first production run, the initial setup costs for the materials. So the target's going to be very achievable, super achievable. So we expect to be fully funded within the first couple of days, and then that then gives everybody else the confidence that they can jump on board and get behind this and get some devices in their hands in the new year.
Yeah.
Well, based on what you said, it really sounds like the product it's really not vaporware, right? Like it sounds like you've done most of the work prior to the Kickstarter. So I'm very sure that you'll be able to see it through based on what you said.
And I guess over the next couple of weeks too, we want to just make sure everyone's following us on some of our social channels, because we've been lucky enough to sort of organise a few collaborations, I guess you'd call it, between some fairly well-known people. So you'll be seeing a lot of us in the next 2 weeks, particularly leading up to that launch. So we're trying to make as much noise and really just validate, the performance and, and the functionality with people that, the market trusts. So hopefully, we'll get some really good feedback from that. So keep watching on our social channels, and you should see some really interesting content pop up.
That's a great approach. I'm sure people really appreciate it as well, because there's nothing worse than manufacturers being like opaque about what they're doing. So that's absolutely great.
A product with the valve index? No one's ever heard of an opaque company.
Okay, so let's say you have your launch and your product's very successful. Do you have any plans to continue in the future to make wireless adapters for other devices?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, without doubt. Yeah, that's our core technology.
Yeah. Everything is better with wireless.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And then not just limit ourselves to VR headsets as well. So VR is a fairly unique application area that we work in, and we feel that we have a competitive advantage there. But we're also looking at products, wireless video products on some other interesting applications within gaming as well. So absolutely, this isn't the last you'll hear of us. This is only the beginning. So hopefully we can use this to leverage a whole bunch of different products out there in the next year or two.
Yeah, as soon as we give the Index community the wireless adapter, and another community start crying about it, then
we're there. We're listening.
I'm looking forward to it. That sounds absolutely great. Okay, cool. Thanks for coming on. Okay, so the last question then. Who was showing off their Beat Saber skills in that demo video you released?
I'm sure there was a world record there. There has to be close.
I don't think I'm anywhere near world record worthy, but I can say that I currently have the record for best score with a wireless index.
Yeah, it must be amazing to be one of the first people to use the index wirelessly in Beat Saber. It must be fantastic.
Oh, yes, it's really fun.
Yeah, well, that's a good point actually, because and even Beat Saber itself, even though it's quite a dynamic gameplay, I think when those types of titles were created, the developers still have to keep in mind that you have this 3-meter cable to the PC and that you don't have a lot of movement. So hopefully, as we see more and more all-in-one and wireless, type PC type VR headsets come to market, that'll allow a lot of the content creators to start building games that take advantage of the freedom of movement that you have around this. So we think it's just the beginning, and VR is still kind of in a fairly early stages. I think over the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of changes and a lot of growth, both in the content and the technology behind that.
Absolutely.
We were talking about world records. I mean, we must say that I was using a scooter around the office wearing the wireless index, so that
was fun.
So
The fastest movement with the wireless index.
So the world land speed record.
Well, that's amazing. That's okay, cool. That's all I've got. So if you guys have anything else specific that you'd like to say before we wrap things up here, feel free.
I mean, really, we just want to say thanks to all the supporters for really getting onto this. Like, we put up one little sneaky video just to see what people would think, and we really didn't expect the response we got, but just the feedback and the comments, and it's really helped us make it better and try and make it what they want, really what everybody wants. I mean, for us too. I mean, we're making it for us too, let's be real. But, so yeah, just really thanks for your feedback and getting into it with us, and hopefully together we can make this happen.
That's great. Okay, well, thanks again for coming on. Like, it's been really nice talking to you all. I really appreciate it.
No, yeah, we really like the website too. It's an interesting take on the market, and it's great to be featured. So we appreciate your support as well.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you. You're flattering me.
So what are you kind of seeing at the moment? I guess having the visibility that you do over all of the headsets out there at the moment. What are some of the trends, and kind of what's the biggest pain point at the moment that you're seeing?
Oh well, I mean, well, right now, from my perspective, if I'm going to be candid for a minute, it's been a weird time to run a VR comparison site when 99% of people are using a Quest 2. Something I'll say is I'm actually surprised at how much longevity the index has had. Like, it's still just as relevant now as it used to be, which I'm glad you guys are making this product for it, honestly, because it shows how good the headset is, that it's been able to keep a position in the market for this long.
Because like most products would start becoming obsolete by now, and they'd be new. Whereas this one, people are still buying them every day and pre-ordering.
There's still back order.
Especially against something like the Quest 2, where it's it's a great headset for the price that it's at.
But the quality is.
People are willing to spend that much extra to get a decent quality headset, which is such a good finish on it for the index, then spend something so little for the Quest 2. Yeah,
so we think that the market will kind of naturally segment itself as well. So you'll have, it is what it is. I mean, the Quest 2 is a good product for an all-in-one type experience, right? And we see that there's plenty of room in the market for those types of headsets, but people still want PC quality VR, and we think that will always be the case. And potentially that market will segment, and you'll have, like it is now, console versus PC, or
I think like the Quest 2's been good. It's because it's put it with VR in the hands of people that might not have done it originally because of price or whatever. It's kind of like entry level, and then if they really love it, they might go, I need more, and that's when they might start looking at the index or.
Good.
No, absolutely. I think it's better for all of us if the market can break up into these specific niches. And honestly, I've been waiting for a long time now for the hardware scene to start really diversifying. So it's really exciting to see ourselves like maybe on the cusp of that at this point.
Yeah, we're excited. Yeah, it's a good time.
Okay, well, I think that's all we've got time for pretty much. So thanks very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And best of luck with your release as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks for sticking through to the end. If you want to find out more about the nofio wireless adapter, you can check out our full spec sheet on the VRcompare website, as always. Link down below. Anyway, this is a bit different to the normal content you see on this channel, but I had a great time making it, so if you would like to see more interviews like this in future, just let me know in the comments. And if you're still watching at this point and you haven't subscribed, come on dude, just give it a wee click. Just takes a second. Cheers everybody.